Om Nilambujasyamalakomalangam Sita Samaropita Vamabhagam Panau Maha Sayakacharu Chapam Namami Ramam Raghuvanshanatham. Adorations to Lord Rama, whose complexion is like a blue lotus, is very tender and delightful in appearance. Sita is seated on his left side, and he's carrying a powerful bow and arrow in his hands. We continue with the story of Devi Parvati in Sri Charitmanas, Balakanda, verse number 74. You recall, Sati was daughter of Daksha, was married to Shiva, but in Daksha Yajna, Daksha performed a great sacrifice. In that sacrifice, he did not invite Shiva. And prior to that, he had insulted Shiva. Sati, seeing her husband, Shiva, being insulted, she allowed herself to be consumed in the fire. This is the storyline, you see. Daksha was punished by Shiva. His normal head was chopped off, and a goat head was put on his head, on his body. And in that state, he offered prayers to Shiva. See, understand, try to follow the story and what it really means. Stories are like fables. You allow in fables foxes and crows, they begin to talk to each other. Similarly, these fables have been created by sages, and they are not ordinary fables. They have mantra potency. Even if you do not follow the real philosophy behind it, it impresses your mind. It has a message for your mind. But since we are giving the subtler meanings, intellect in you is Sati. But a good intellect gets married to Shiva, implying if you have a good intellect, a good daughter of Daksha, by your intellectual understanding, you come to realize God alone is the reality. Asato ma sadgamaya. Lead me from the unreal to the real. And the intellect develops a good grasp of it. Sati developed that grasp. That Sati is developing that grasp is that subtle implication. But once intellect has developed that, normally your intellect is closely associated with your ego. Kind of a father-daughter relationship. But when intellect comes to realize that this ego association is an obstacle for attaining liberation, then intellect promotes practice of samadhi. By samadhi experience, when intellect passes through the mystic fire of samadhi, it becomes transformed. Just like a caterpillar gets transformed into a butterfly, intellect becomes transformed. The transformed intellect's story is Sati is born as Parvati. Parvati's father is the spirit of the Himalayas, Himavan. And mother is a mana. The simpler meaning of mana term is humility. In Indian language is I. Na, not I. And certain birds are known as mana. They are graceful. So all that allegorical implications are there. But the basic point is now the intellect that is born as Uma, she has been nourished by Himalaya, the profound potentiality of wisdom, and mana, spiritual humility. In that environment, Parvati grew up. And led by Narada's prediction, Parvati began to practice austerity for being wedded to Lord Shiva. That is again for pure intellect. The goal is realizing God, Brahman, and that's same as Shiva. And there is nothing else other than Brahman. So for Parvati, Shiva is the only goal. Parvati began to practice austerity. In the storyline, she practiced austerity for thousands of years. And I have given you the subtler meaning behind it. She went on changing her diet. And in the end, towards the end, she started eating nothing but leaves. Storyline, you see. Don't practice it. Then for 1,000 years, she gave up even eating leaves. She was known as Aparna. And subtler meaning behind it. Vishaya ras. Human mind goes on feeding on the taste of sense enjoyment. And that food is gradually reduced and brought into a more sublimer state. If you continue your sadhana, if you are practicing your sadhana sustained, you are doing austerity. And austerity gradually leads your mind away from Vishaya ras, finding taste in worldly thoughts, in worldly enjoyments. From that, you are led to discover taste in spiritual talks, taste in allowing the mind to flow towards God with devotion. So that change of taste, in between there is relinquishment of taste. Now at this stage, our story continues. Doha number 74. Bhayau manoratha sufalatava sunugiri raja kumari pariharu dusaha kalesha sab abimili hahi tripurari. O daughter of the mountain, all your cherished wishes have come to be fulfilled. The Sanskrit word for cherished wish called manorath. In Hindi style of saying, the blessing is given, Tera manorath safal ho. May your wishes be fulfilled. That's the literal meaning. But what I'm trying to draw your attention to is the word manorath. Rath means chariot. And mind, in order to fulfill its cherished desire, must become ingrained in a good chariot. Now, the chariot setting is, there are horses. Horses are the senses. Mind is the reins by which the horses are pulled. Intellect drives the chariot towards a destination, and the soul is being driven in that chariot. If the chariot set is in order, then what will happen? The horses are not guiding your chariot. They are not leading your chariot. The chariot driver is not drunk driver, or he doesn't do driving and texting both at the same time. When you bring that order within yourself, Supal Manorat, your whatever cherished desire is there, now it has cosmic stamp. That's a very profound statement. Not easy to understand, but that's the ideal you work for. So this celestial voice is an intuitional revelation within her heart. Pariharu dusaha kalesha sab. Now abandon all these severe austerities. You are going to be united with Shiva. And the Shiva is described as Tripurari. In Shiva Purana, Tripura was a great demon. And Shiva brought about the destruction of that demon. In mystical way, just to understand, relative consciousness. Think of your dream. In dream, three things have gone wrong. The dream subject, the dream world, and the dream experience of pleasure and pain. All these three are false. So all your experience in your dream is based on falsehood. So instead of looking for a good experience in your dream, wake up. Apply that in your daily life. This is a big jump for your mind. Even in this practical world, which is called a dirgha swapana, a long dream, you are not fully aware of who you are. If you have psychological problems, you go to a psychologist. Tell me, who am I? Physical problems, so you go to a doctor. Tell me, am I healthy? That's a gross example of if you are unaware, not fully aware of who you are. And the world is always a challenge before scientists. They think they have come to know the major aspect of the world. But as the science progresses, the mind begins to be blown away by the understanding. What you don't know is much bigger than what you know. The more you know, the more the unknown overpowers you. And then your experiences of pleasure and pain, that again is tricky. Sometimes you think you are going negative. But under good circumstances, you are led to understand that it is the right way of your experience, which implies you are getting healthier. You are unhealthy, Your hands touched things and you wouldn't feel the touch. And you felt wonderful. You are getting a little healthier. Sensitivity comes into your hand. Now even a little dust particle touches your hand and you begin to shake your hand. I'm just giving you a crude illustration. So, what seems like an apparent default, a negative, is actually positive. So, do not be led by apparent experiences of pleasure and pain. Try to understand in the atmosphere of prayer, surrender to God, understand the meaning, and face both adversity and prosperity with surrender, with humility. You have to gain lessons from both. Sometimes you gain more lessons from your adversity than from your prosperity. So, what we are reading, I'm leading you to understand that these three types of defects, they are represented as Tripura. And movement to Shiva is divine awakening. All these three defects are cut down. Shiva, God within you, removes the threefold defect. Seer, seen, and sight. And that's what the celestial voice said to Parvati, that may your manorath wishes be fulfilled. And Shiva is going to be united with you. Shiva, who is the remover of the demon Tripura, who is the destroyer of the three aspects of the relative world process. Asatapu kahunaki na bhavani, bhaye aneka dhir muni jnani. O Bhavani, Shiva is known as Bhava. Bhava also in another context relates to the whole world process. One who enfolds the entire world, one who is all permeating reality is Bhava. And his consort, Shakti, is Bhavani. In another context, you will read these terms as Purusha and Prakriti. Shiva is Purusha and Prakriti is Bhavani. In other words, the entire creation is a blend of God and Prakriti. Prakriti is a magical power of God. Prakriti becomes the source of all matter. And that's a very profound study that you need to do it in proper time. Avay pita bolavan jabahi, hatha parihari ghar jayahu tabahi. The voice said that, O Parvati, when your father comes to take you home, don't insist to go on doing austerity. Your austerity has been fulfilled. You have come to a success. Hatha parihari. Do not be obstinate. But if you want a deeper meaning, think of Hatha Yoga. That yogic movement where your effort is directed to bring about unity between sun and moon. Sun is Pingala Nari. Moon is Ida Nari. Sun allows your intellect to shine. Moon allows your vasanas to flourish. And bringing about a balance of Ha and Tha, that becomes a mystic process. But if you are advanced, the movement becomes spontaneous. Hatha is needed in the beginning, but don't continue to be with hatha. मिलहि तुम्हि जब सप्त ऋषिषा जानेहु तव प्रमाण बागीसा. When 7 great sages come to meet you, you will know the authenticity of this voice. You are on the right course if 7 sages come to meet you. Since we are dealing with the highlight, which means profound light. 7 sages relate to 7 Jnana Bhumikas. 7 steps, ascending steps to enlightenment, to the absolute goal. And that Yoga Vasishtha has detailed upon that. But just to give you a reiteration, first step is Shubhecha, which simply means aspiration, a divine aspiration. Aspiration to attain enlightenment. And if you go deeper into the understanding, you go on developing vivek, an insight into what is real and what is unreal. Next point, vairagya. Develop detachment from that which is unreal and let your mind become more fascinated by what is real in a progressive manner. These 2 great qualities are viveka and vairagya. Then comes shat sampat, 6 virtues which they go together. Shama, serenity of mind. Dhamma, control of senses. Uparati, doing your duties, but not depending upon the fruit of karma. Don't be attached to the result of karma. The result of karma is always some happening in the world of time and space. But any happening in the world of time and space is a transient development. So come to that state. Do your duties for purity of heart, not for staying stuck to the world. That quality is called uparati. Next quality is called titiksha. Developing endurance, the quality to endure adversity and prosperity. Both are to be endured. Because prosperity shakes your head in one way, and prosperity in another way. And stay controlled. Shraddha. Next quality is Shraddha, faith. Faith is a very profound quality that's instinctive in every individual. If your mind becomes relaxed and gets a little touch of devotion, faith begins to work within you in an amazing way. Your problems are sucked out by faith in a very short time. But when you lack faith, every problem is exaggerated more and more. So that Shraddha begins to develop for an aspirant. Samadhan. The next quality is called equanimity of mind. The mind that does not look at things with a prejudiced attitude. It looks at things as they are in divine plan. If it is raining too much, Don't start thinking now, La Monga, I'm going to suffer from pneumonia. How miserable. But look at it. What a wondrous blessings coming from the heavens. And how this whole creation is feelings bathed in the shower of divine love. That's one illustration I give. I don't have to give any more. And Upanishads have elaborated upon it. When it is too hot, tapantam na nindya tadavratam. This is the vow. Too hot, don't condemn it. Varshantam na nindya tadavratam. If it's too rainy, don't condemn it. Don't condemn human beings. Don't condemn animals, birds. Don't live to condemn others. That state of mind is called samadhan. All this goes to one category called Shat Sampatti. Shat Sampatti. 6 aspected wealth. This is your real treasure. Don't go to look into banks. And the last of the 4th is called mukshutva. Burning aspiration. Burning, don't take it literally. A profound longing for attaining liberation. When you are developing these, you have gotten the first step, shubhecha. Then comes the next step. But at this stage you should know, if you are perfected in the first step, you are also perfected at the same time at the last step. So that type of mystical implications are whenever we talk about the steps. Don't use a mathematical concept that first I must perfect the first step and then ask the Guru, have I perfected it? Then I'm going to take up the second step. Because all these steps are different aspects of spiritual progress. So come back to the simple enumeration, shubhecha, vicharana, the next step, mind becomes exceedingly reflective, clear thinking, positive thinking, contemplation. Third step, tanumanasi, ragadvesha, attachment and hatred, they always are exaggerated in human mind. But they become extremely attenuated as a result of shubhecha and vicharana. Then come to the 4th step. Mind becomes so filled with purity, sattva, that you have become aware that you are rooted in God. Now that awareness leads you to different levels of profounder experience. But at this stage you become liberated. Anything else that follows is just a matter of palabras, words. But just to know what follows. Next stage that comes is called asamsakti. You continue to do various things in this world, but you are untouched, just like the sky. The sky continues to play with clouds, but nothing of the cloud sticks to the sky. Day by day problems come, and you move into another set of problems. But then what happens? You are carrying the load of your previous problems. And you have another problem of new set of problems. You are not like the sky. The deeper spiritual movement enables you to be more and more detached. Two illustrations are given, like the sky or like Padma Patra Mivambhasa, lotus leaf, always as well as lotus flowers. They are in the lake, but water shines on them, but doesn't stick. A little breeze blows and the drops of water slip away from the lotus. In the same way, you live in the world, untouched by the world and blossoming like the lotus. If you are just untouched, then that's not so joyous. But you blossom. Both go together. And after Asam Sakti comes Padartha Bhavana. The mind experiences that state of peace that you generally experience in deep sleep. But in deep sleep, you experience it, but you come back to your old ways. But that state now becomes your permanent residence. That's called Padartha Bhavana. And finally, the last, seventh, or the fourth, Turiya, which simply means transcendental. All the languages that the mind is adopting to describe it, that very mind just is blown away. So no description. Brahman alone exists. So these 7 steps, they are represented by 7 great sages. So in a storyline, these sages come in situations where a soul is need to be inspired to follow a spiritual path. Sunat gira vidhi gagan bakhani, pulak gaat kirija harasani, uma charit sundar may gawa, sunahu shambhukar charit suava. When Parvati listened to this celestial voice, she was extremely joyous. Her whole body became thrilled with spiritual ecstasy. So far, Sage Yajnavalkya is telling this, relating the Ramayana to Bharadwaja. Says, so far I have given the story of Parvati, what happened to her. But now listen to the story of Shiva. For serious aspirants, story of Parvati is the story of Prakriti. And story of Shiva is the story of Purusha. Prakriti relates to the sources, body, mind, intellect, ego, and all the resources that you have, they come from Prakriti. Even up to Vivek Buddhi, intuitive knowledge, they all belong to Prakriti. And that Prakriti aspect is represented by Parvati. Prakriti at the highest climax. And that story has been given. But now, as Prakriti begins to present profounder resources for the soul begins to shine brighter and brighter. Those movements of the soul are described in the form of Devi Sampat, divine qualities, virtues. But to cut this story short, don't be too confused. Both ways, Prakriti and Purusha, they are interchangeable. Because both are one and the same ultimately. Now, so the story moves towards Shiva. What is Shiva doing while Parvati is going through all these austerity, etc.? जब ते सती जाई तनु त्यागा, तब ते शिव मन भयउ विरागा. Since the time Sati was burnt up into the fire of mystical fire, Shiva developed in his mind profound vairagya, dispassion. Japa hi sada raghunayak nama, jaha taha sunahi rama gunagrama. And he spent his time doing japa of Bhagavan Ram. Ram, Ram, Ram. Ram relates to Brahman, the Absolute. Again, while we say Brahman, the Absolute, that Brahman also comes within the range of your communication. That aspect of Ram is called Sagun Ram. Rama, who can be described with form, name, and a devotee can talk to Rama, can receive divine blessings from Rama. All that is perfectly in order until you come to the state where your mind itself has become melted away. Then that Rama is not Saguna state, but Brahman, the Absolute. And Shiva is essentially Rama. But the story doesn't stop there. Every one of you is essentially Rama. Essentially Brahman, Tattvamasi. Thou art that. So while these Puranas bring all these stories of avatars, etc., but suddenly ends up with a whisper, thou art that. Chidananda Sukadama Shiva Bigat Moha Madakam Vicharahi Maidhari Hridaya Hari Sakala Loka Abhiram. Shiva is Chidanand, bliss blended with consciousness. He is the abode of joy. He is devoid of moha, mada, and kama. Moha relates to delusion, infatuation. Mada relates to pride and conceit. Kama relates to worldly desires. And Shiva is presenting himself as the ideal aspirant, devotee of Rama. So in order to be devotee of Rama, these qualities you have to develop. And these negative qualities you have to sublimate. Moha, mada, kama, krodha, all the malas. Remember when you say mala, mala means impurity, all the malos. Kama, krodha, lova, moha, mada, and matsarya. 6 of them. But these 6 multiply into 660 and more. So don't count the negativity. But these are the broad outlines of these impurities. So, allowing your mind to be nirmal, You're trying, this early stage, just to try and create a positive affirmation that the real me. See, you have big headache. Continue to feel the headache. But say to yourself, the real me has no headache. And strive to remedy the headache. That's the way the spirituality is practiced. So, Shiva, keeping his mind nirmal, enshrining Lord Hari in his heart. Lord Hari is Lord Vishnu, same as Rama. Rama is incarnation of Lord Vishnu. All those details don't count. They're all Rama, Hari. They relate to Brahman, the Absolute, in this context. So, having enshrined God in his heart, he began to live in the world. The word Hari, I have brought out a simple meaning of Hari. Whenever you describe the world around you in a very joyous way, the statement is, look at the Haryali. Haryali hi Haryali hai. In every channel of your heart, there is a sense of God's presence. Hari in every ali. That also becomes an ideal. It's not easy, but that ideal has to be kept. You do not allow your mind in adverse situation, do not allow your mind to become too affected, too injured, but allow your mind to have a little dream, a little sense that even though you are struggling, you are a swan with wings. And soon you will be on your wings and there will be Haryali everywhere. Katahun muni ne upadesh ahi jnana, katahun Rama gun karahi bakhana. This is Shiva spends his time giving instructions to spiritual seekers, describing the virtuous qualities of Rama, implying the qualities, the attributes of God. And what Shiva started doing, that's the message is being given to everybody. That's what you start doing. Though Shiva is desireless, the profounder truth is, Bhagavan, God, allows himself to feel miserable because of his devotees. If devotees have pain, God takes that pain over himself. In this context, since Parvati is going through austerity, Shiva is feeling a kind of a mystic pain. Ehi vidhi gayu kalu bahubiti, nitanay hoi Rama pada priti. Nemu premu sankara kara rekha dekha, avichal hriday bhagati ke rekha. Some time passed, and Shiva began to develop increasingly a new type of love for Rama's feet. Nitanaya hoi Rama pad priti. If that the quality of love, purer the love, as time passes, the joy increases. And the absolutely pure love is only for God. That doesn't mean that you turn away from people around you. They are all God. They're channels of God. You love God, in and through your relatives, your friends. And if that love begins to grow in your heart, you never feel burden as time passes by. Rather, a new joy enters in your heart. So the idea is to understand sadhana process never brings boredom in your mind. When you hear a person saying, I have been practicing sadhana for 20 years, with a very sad face. You have not been practicing sadhana. Real sadhana will give you increasing inner joy, inner peace. And when you have that type of experience, you never say, how long will it take for attaining liberation? This is brought out into those stories that once Narada was going on in his divine trips, an ascetic who was given to a very severe austerity. He has allowed fire to raise on all sides, Panchagni tapas. And in the middle of the fire, he was enduring all the heat and repeating the mantras, Fat Fat Swaha. He saw Narada and asked, the moment you go to Lord Vishnu, ask, how long will it take for him to come here and give me my boon? And then as he goes, he finds another. There is a devotee under a big banyan tree. And he is repeating his mantra, he is dancing, and he is inspiring even the birds of the tree. He also asked Narada, asked Lord Vishnu, will he grace me? Will he give me his darshan? Time passed. Narada returned and first met the ascetic who is practicing intense austerity. He said, your austerity is coming to fruition, coming to success in 5 years. Ascetic jumped out of it. Can't endure even a single day. That's too much. Same Narada goes to the other man who is doing his japa and dancing under a tree. And Narada said, look at how many leaves are there on this tree. He said, I see them. So many years will take for Lord Vishnu to appear before you. He said, he will appear? Adorations to every leaf of this tree. Try to develop that attitude. And with this I will go. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.